Well, it's a beautiful day here in Minneapolis. Really great. We get maybe only 300 like this a year in Santa Barbara. I'll start with a brief text, and I'll be all over the Bible before I'm done. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 18, 19, and 20. Flee from sexual immorality. All of the sins a man commits are outside his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. Now that's the warning. But here's that great vision again. What Thomas Chalmers called as the expulsive power of a great affection. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You're not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. It's risky to talk about the goodness of sex these days, because ours is an age of sexual hyperbole. Never before in history has the goddess of sex offered so much with so little to give. Never before has sexual pleasure been sought with such grim earnestness. Never before has so much merchandise been moved on the implicit promise that it will make you more sexy or get you more sex. And if the advertising industry is any indication, the threat of AIDS and STDs, rather than diminishing or disciplining the sexual urge, has simply made it more daring, more exciting. It's raised the stakes. It's upped the bet, so to speak. In the 60s, a famous graffiti appeared in Berkeley, California. Don't they all? It was a parody of the Nazi slogan, Arbeit macht frei, or work makes free. Someone had sprayed on a wall, sex makes free. A few years later, a friend of mine saw a more erudite version of that same thought scrawled on a bathroom wall in the philosophy building of the University of Southern California. It was a parody of René Descartes' famous formulation, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. You can guess what it was. Copulo ergo sum, I copulate, therefore I am. And so with this sexual obsession, one is tempted to downplay the pleasures and goodness of sex, to say they're overrated. And in a sense they are. But I think that might do the devil's will as much as the other. Pleasure is God's idea. And God is the devil's enemy. The devil actually hates pleasure because he hates the God of pleasure. And C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters, that imaginary correspondence between two devils, Uncle Screwtape and his nephew Wormwood. And you have to be careful when you hear this quote because everything's upside down as they talk. The devil Screwtape tries to explain to Wormwood what he finds most appalling and disingenuous about God. That God is really out to make people happy. And that even the austere parts of this program, the spiritual disciplines, are really ruses, clever deceptions to make them more happy. He's a hedonist at heart, sniffs Screwtape. All those fasts and vigils and stakes and crosses are only a facade, are like foam on the seashore, or out at sea, out on his sea, there is pleasure and more pleasure. He makes no secret of it. At his right hand are pleasures forevermore. He's vulgar, Wormwood. He has a bourgeois mind. He has filled the world full of pleasures. And the devil's grand strategy against pleasure is to twist it, to get us to misuse it. And Screwtape continues. Never forget that when we are dealing with any pleasure in its healthy and normal and satisfying form, we are, in a sense, on the enemy's, that's God's, ground. I know we have won many a soul through pleasure, but all the same, it's his invention, not ours. He made the pleasures. All our research so far has not enabled us to produce one. All we can do is to encourage the humans to take the pleasures which our enemy has produced at times or in ways or in degrees which he has forbidden. Hence, we always try to work away from the natural condition of any pleasure to that in which it is least natural, least redolent of its maker, and least pleasurable. An ever-increasing craving for an ever-diminishing pleasure is the formula. End of quote. And I think that formula is exactly what is going on in our culture. An ever-increasing craving for an ever-diminishing pleasure. Look at the magazines at the checkout counter of your market, not too long. There's a weariness about them, a chatty droning about this technique and that technique, this pleasure point or that pleasure point. G.K. Chesterton's description of the world's joys applies. These are but small publicities when set next to the Christian's gigantic secret of joy. And the gigantic secret of the joy of sex is this: sex is good because the God who created sex is good. And God is glorified greatly when we receive this gift with thanksgiving and enjoy it the way He meant for it to be enjoyed. At the seventh and last of Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, the children have come into Aslan's land, which is to Narnia what the new heavens and the new earth will be to our heavens and earth. And the children are amazed as they look around and realize, well, you know, it looks a lot like the old Narnia. Only better. Same mountains, same streams. And then one of them breaks out joyfully and says, well, I get it now. I mean, the reason we loved the old Narnia was because it was a little bit like this. And the reason we love sex is because it's a little bit like the God who gave it. Now, how do we know this is true? Well, we know it's true because of its place in the Bible. The Bible is a book about marriage. That's the way David Hubbard put it in his commentary on the Song of Songs. And to say that the Bible is a book about marriage is to say that it is also a book about sex and the meaning of sex. For marriage is the only natural condition for the pleasure of sex. Remember Elizabeth Elliot talking about marriage once, and she said something I didn't agree with at all until I thought about it. She said, marriage is the institution for the preservation of love. I thought, no, it's the other way around. Isn't love that which preserves marriage? And no, she said, no, it's the institution that preserves love. And what she was saying was the covenant promises people make to each other in marriage create the structure and the safe environment for fragile human love to flourish. It's me knowing that my wife will not leave me if I'm less than a lover and less than scintillating in conversation and less than slim and beautiful and so on. It's knowing all those things that sets me free to be, if I may say, scintillating. It's knowing that I'm safe, that I can be stud, bent. Marriage is the institution for the preservation of sex. And the Bible's a book about marriage. There are 5 ways that we can see this. Number 1, in the very beginning, the Bible tells us about a marriage. Genesis 2:23-25. The man said, now this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. And then Jesus quotes these lines. For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh. And the man and his wife are both naked, and they felt no shame. Here comes the bride. By the authority invested in God as the creator of the heavens and the earth, he pronounces them husband and wife. 2, at the very end of the Bible, there's a marriage, as we know. We sang about it. Revelation 19, 6, 7, and 9. Hallelujah! For the Lord God Almighty reigns. Let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory, for the wedding of the Lamb has come and his bride has made herself ready. And the angel said to me, blessed are those who are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. In Revelation 21, I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. You know these things, but they're good to remind ourselves of. 3, the central themes of the Bible are underlined with marriage metaphors. Hosea's bad marriage to a sexually promiscuous wife is a picture of God's marriage to his people. Isaiah 62, when the marriage is healed and God and his people are reconciled, it will be no longer will they call you deserted or name your land desolate, but you will be called Hephzibah. My delight is in her. And your land, Beulah, married. For the Lord will take delight in you, and your land will be married. As a young man marries a maiden, so will your sons marry you. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will God rejoice over you. I feel like a voyeur every time I perform a wedding, standing there with these two. And I often watch something that no one else is looking at when the bride starts down the aisle. They're all looking at the bride, and I'm looking at the sappy look on this guy's face. No, it's not sappy. It's just, oh. Could it be that as he rejoices over his bride, God rejoices over us? If it weren't in the Bible, I'd be out of line. In the Gospels, Jesus is like a bridegroom. When asked why his disciples don't fast like John, he says, how can the guests of the bridegroom mourn when he's with them? That's him. Matthew 25, the coming of the kingdom of heaven is like people waiting for a wedding. John 3:29, when John the Baptist has to step aside because his friend, the bridegroom, has come. It's Jesus' party now, not his. And he says, he must become greater, I must become less. And human marriage is a demonstration of God's marriage to his people. After speaking in some detail about the mutual responsibilities of a husband and a wife in marriage and of how the two become one flesh, I love the way Paul does this. He says, but what I'm really talking about is Christ and his church. This is a picture of it. 4, the sexual in the Bible is a chief arena of the brokenness of sin, and therefore occupies an important place among the things Christ came to redeem. Genesis 3:16, the fall fractures the sexual relationship of the man and the woman. The bearing of children will be painful, and her desire for her husband will be full of anguish and struggle. The marriage bed will become a battleground. Romans 1:21-24. The heart of our darkness is this: for though they knew God, they did not acknowledge him as God, or glorify him as God, or give thanks to him as God, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. The heart of our darkness is the refusal to glorify God and give him the thanks he deserves. And what happens? It shows itself first in idolatry, and then perhaps just as tellingly in our sexuality. Therefore, God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity for the degrading of their bodies with one another. And 5, and happily, tucked away in the study of the Bible, among the law and the prophets is a little book called Song of Songs. It's a collection of love and wedding songs. No liturgy, no commandments, no hymns, no oracles, no visions, just love songs. The Song of Songs, which is to say, the best song of all, in the way that Jesus is Lord of Lords, the best and supreme Lord of all. And this little book is unique in the Old Testament. Throughout the Old Testament, because of its concern for the covenant, the Old Testament's interest in sex is preoccupied with its relation to begetting. There are very few clues outside Song of Songs as to whether sex should be fun. Song of Songs fills the gap. It says, along with having children, sex is for pleasure, joy, communion, and celebration. And it's a beautiful picture of what redeemed sex looks like. I like Karl Barth's description of the book. He said it is eros without shame. A poetic commentary on Genesis 2:25. The man and his wife were both naked and they felt no shame. And the question is, if they didn't feel shame, what did they feel? Well, the answer is Song of Songs will give the answer. And here are some of the ways they feel when sex is in its natural condition. I'm just going to hit some of the greatest hits here. Second verse of the book. Now, again, think of great beginnings in the Bible. You know, in the beginning, God. Great beginning. Genesis 1:1. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Great beginning. Song of Songs. Kiss me again and again, for your love is sweeter than wine. Yes. Yes. Kiss me. It's literally smother me with kisses. Because your love, literally your lovemaking, your caresses, leave me more heady, more euphoric, more buzzed than wine. That's in the Bible. Or chapter 1, verse 9. And I'm kind of alternating between the New International Version and the New Living Translation, mainly because my friend and colleague, Trimper Longman, he supervised the NLT a bit, and he loves this book. But this is NIV now. Chapter 1, verse 9. I liken you, my darling, to a mare harnessed to one of the chariots of Pharaoh. Now try that sometime on your spouse. But then think about this. Pharaoh's chariots had no mares harnessed to them. They were all stallions. And if you look at the context here, the woman has just sort of talked about how she's really not that good looking. And her exuberant lover, her husband says, oh no, when you walk through this place, it's like a mare walking into a corral of stallions. Now, if you've been around horses, it ain't pretty, but boy, is it exciting. That's the effect. That's the effect that she has on him and on everybody else. Chapter 2, verses 3 to 7. Back to the NIV here again. I've entitled this Ecstasy and Restraint. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my lover among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. Oh, okay, love songs have their ups and downs. But take note that the apple tree and the trees of the forest and this fruit, these are all ancient erotic symbols. His shade is his closeness. Then this one. He has taken me to the banquet hall, and his banner over me is love. You know, he took me to the banqueting table. Well, the banqueting hall is literally the house of wine. And since we're written in a Norse or Old English culture, it'd be the mead hall. People drink in these places. That's the metaphor for the ecstasy of their lovemaking. It's kind of like that. And this banner thing, no one's quite sure why this military metaphor applies. I think it just speaks of the ferocity of his love. And she says, strengthen me with raisins, again, believed to have aphrodisiac qualities in those days. Refresh me with apples, same, for I'm faint with love. His left arm is under my head and his right arm embraces me. No comment. And then this. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and the does of the field, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Now, maybe if we want to give someone a charge and make a promise, we say, now, lay your hand on the Bible, or we hold up the Constitution, lay your hand on, and based on the Constitution, promise that you'll do the following. And she says, the does and the gazelles of the field, I charge you by those, not to awaken love or arouse it until it so desires. Well, read the book. The does and gazelles are further symbols of passion. She invites her lover to her mountain-like contours while she compares her breasts to fawns, twins of a gazelle. 2:17, 8:14, 4:5, 7:3. This is a short book. You can read it. This is great. She charges restraint in the very name of the things that excite her. It's another way of saying, for the sake of sex, we must restrain sex until the right time and the right place. This happens twice in the book. Back to the devils for a moment. All we can do is to encourage the humans to take the pleasures which our enemy has produced at times or in ways or in degrees which he has forbidden. Hence, we always try to work away from the natural to that which is least natural, least redolent or glorifying of its maker, and therefore least pleasurable. A couple more. Chapter 2, verses 16 to 17. I entitled this Sweet Anticipation, with apologies to Carly Simon. My lover is mine and I am his. We belong to each other. He feeds among the lilies. Again, the lilies, it's just like the fawns and the gazelles. It's the tender parts of her breasts. And then she says, before the dawn comes and the shadows flee away, come back to me, my love. Run like a gazelle or a young stag on the rugged mountains. May this last all night, and may you enjoy my mountains, the contours and clefts of my body. It's in the Bible. One last one. I love this one, 7 verses 1 to 9, because I was associated with a magazine some of you older people might remember called the Wittenberg Door. And we took all these metaphors literally, sort of basely literally, and we drew a picture of what this woman looked like based on a literalistic reading of these. Yeah. We had no English majors in the bunch. But if you get past, don't get past these are wonderful pictures, and I'll just say very few things about them, because you don't really have to. 7, verse 1. He's really noticed her. Like, how beautiful are your sandaled feet, O queenly maiden. Your rounded thighs are like jewels, the work of a skilled craftsman. Your navel is as delicious as a goblet filled with wine. You can only imagine what the fools who did the door did with that one. What a beautiful picture. Your belly is lovely, like a heap of wheat set about with lilies. Your breasts are like twin fawns of a gazelle. Your neck is as stately as an ivory tower. Your eyes are like the sparkling pools in Heshbon by the gate of Bath-Rabban. Your nose is as fine as a tower of Lebanon overlooking Damascus. It's not big. It's beautifully formed. Your head is as majestic as Mount Carmel, and the sheen of your hair radiates royalty. A king is held captive in your queenly tresses. Oh, how beautiful you are, my beloved. How pleasant. For utter delight. You are tall and slim like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters of grapes. I said, I will climb up into the palm tree and take hold of its branches. It's in the Bible. Now may your breasts be like grape clusters and the scent of your breath like apples. May your kisses be as exciting as the best wine, smooth and sweet, flowing gently over lips and teeth. I love working with students. One student came to me last month and was fallen in love, and he said, Ben, I look at her and I can't breathe. It's biblical. It's biblical. And that's the sexuality of the Bible there. There's all these wonderful, passionate urges and longings. And the only real warning in this wonderful little book is because of its beauty, keep it where it belongs. You know, I think the sexuality of our age is like the Colorado River down in Yuma, Arizona. It's wide and it's shallow and it's muddy and it stinks. Go up to the Grand Canyon and look at the Colorado River. It has boundaries, hard boundaries, and the river is powerful and glorious. That's God's idea about our sexuality. This may be a bit of a personal indulgence. I think it's pretty good, actually. One of my sons is an English major at Westmont and a writing focus. And he's working on his poetry, and he wrote a piece he called Victoria's Secret. And I want to read it to you because it is such a contrast to what I've been having so much fun reading to you up to this point. And take notes, it's written by a young man, single, who wants to be holy, but every time he goes down to Paseo Nuevo on State Street in Santa Barbara, California, and walks through the mall there on the way to the theaters or the Cajun restaurant, he walks by Victoria's Secret with its big windows. Makes me want to weep. It's so honest. And it is so not what this is about. Just what kind of secret is Victoria trying to keep? What blushing mystery pauses before the pursed lips of the mannequin in the window? Whatever it is, or whoever that plastic she is, I've shuffled to a stop, hoping no one spies my lingering. We've all done it, men, that is. I'm not the first to be fascinated by the accoutrements of feminine mystique, which are many things, but not secretive. Panties, bras, frills, straps, and lace brandish a secret badly kept. A message plain as an eye-shadowed wink. Suddenly I get the message. A purr from behind the window hooks its finger, peeling blushes off my skin, revealing bleeding secrets beneath. Not bad. but not at all like this best love song ever written.